Um, sorry, I'm running a little bit behind. I'm still trying to change out bobbins and thread. Been working on a book bag for my daughter. So, doing some fancy quilting. Lost track of time. And if you're curious as to what I mean by fancy quilting, I'm actually doing some foundation paper piecing. And I can show you what I'm working on for a By Annie bag. It's one of the new things they've done for an ad for the backpacks done by Annie. Speaking of which, my thread's trying to unravel itself. But I'm going to be working on the Family Travel Eye Organizer by Linds Handmade tonight. And we are going to do that this week and next week and go through all that. And of course, I don't share the measurements or anything like that. I will share any of my tips and tricks for doing the pattern. And I will show you what the Family Travel Organizer looks like in just a second, putting out. So as you see, using really pretty variegated thread. I get all my variegateds that I sew with from Wizardry, Stitchery, or geekyhardware.com. And I'm not gifted it. I buy it because it's a great thread. I enjoy it. That's what I use for most of my threads. I use what I use for a lot of my solids too, at least until I run out of other solids. I use navy and white from there just because I like the weight of the fabric, of the thread. So as you saw, I'm using a variegated teal for this. I am making a travel organizer for a lady who ordered one. She says, I like all kinds of florals and color. And then she said, I like squirrels. And when she said, I like squirrels, and of course, I'm trying to thread my needle and it's being difficult. Hold on. Of course, my needle's being difficult when I have to thread it with y'all on the thing. Here we go. All right, so needle is threaded. But she says, I like squirrels. So she says, I like squirrels. I had the perfect fabric. This is the Tula Pink Tiny Beast. Very colorful. There is squirrels everywhere. Lots of pinks, greens, teals. And I'm still using Tula Pink for the lining. I love these hexies. They're one of my favorite things to use for linings or accents or anything like that. There's many colors of it. There's purples and a quilted backpack. I'm doing the straps. If you want to see, it's a lot of paper piecing for the straps. So, woohoo. Still got a ways to go. But, so what we're going to do tonight is the Family Travel Organizer by Linds Handmade. And I have a completed one to show you so you can see what it all has in there. We have card slots. We have a zippered pocket, and then enough for 2 passport sleeves, and then a elastic for a pin. So what we're going to do is we'll get started. I'm going to show you kind of what I've already got prepped. I've already got all my stuff 101 on. I start sewing it. I like for it to sit. This has actually been sitting for a couple days now. I don't usually sit that long, maybe about an hour, because it'll adhere better. The flap actually has some Decavol. You can see the kind of tannish color, the Decavol light, just so it'll support the spring snaps. So we have our spring snap, and we have our zipper tape for the zipper pocket. And if you can see, I even have a squirrely zipper pull. So I try to go all in when I'm making a custom order for someone. And so we have that, and we're going to get started once I show you. All right, so a family travel organizer is one of these. You see, it's decent size, but you unsnap it. And of course, I actually had some woven fabric and vinyl that was the same This one I'm making is all woven, so you just have to interface appropriately. In other words, of course, I didn't need the SF101 on the vinyl, but I cut my thing so that when you open it up, it's all the same direction. That is, and just to show you, this has pocket cash, and then your cards, and then your zipper pocket. I use the same, the Decavol in there, just not going to be an issue for it coming through the fabric or whatever. And I actually will put an extra piece of Decavol once I get the snap ready to go in for the body, not on the. My brain's not want to work. I've already got the Decavol light on the flap. Okay, so to get started, we're going to put our main body together. And I have not made this in a while. It's the main reason I have to look at everything. Like I said, I don't share pattern measurements, but I will show you how I do everything and in the order I do things. Now, one thing is that you do have your card slots, and she gives you one big piece, and then you mark it and you do your folds. Now, at this point, we are going to top stitch across every top. So just to show you on this one, just so you can see, it's top stitched on each one separately. And then we will mark the center and top stitch that. What I do is top stitch across, because we're not going to do the other until we're ready to get started. All right, so we're going to go ahead and top stitch that. So I'm going to move y'all to the machine. If there are any questions, please let me know. Oh, I got to make my stitch length a little longer. I've been doing the foundation paper piecing, and you can pull the paper off later, you have to have a very small stitch length. So, yeah, had it at like 1.5. So now we are doing it with, like, I usually sew between a 2 and a. Huh? But like I said, right now we are just top stitching our previously pressed by the measurements that she outlined in her pattern. And so just now when you're top stitching, you don't want to top stitch your pocket to the other one. So make sure you fold it back. And we're just doing each layer, and we'll do that. Okay. Now, if you're wondering, well, it looks like it's right at the edge of the foot. I top stitch with 1/8 of an inch. And this is a narrow foot on the Juki TL 18Q VP, and which is 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. And trim that. And we do our last pocket, and then I will take it over to my table and mark my center. Welcome. If y'all have any questions or need me to explain what I'm doing, I can. So I'm going to move to my table real quick and mark the center point of this. So if you can see, I'm going to flip y'all back around real quick. All right. So if you see, we have our nice pretty top stitches. Now we'll go and trim on the back side. So I have my nice pretty threads and everything. And we're all good. I remembered all of them. Okay, so I'm gonna go and mark my center point. And I will use a heat erase marker. So let's see, let's go back here. And so I will go back and forth. I don't ever always do things in order. Just want to make sure something real quick. Okay. Okay. Now, I have already trimmed this down to the size that she says in the pattern because it is what we want it to be. So I'm going to go mark the center. Then we're going to stitch down from that mark here, and that will divide your card slots. I'll be right back. So if you can see, my table is right here. I'm not going very far. I just go here and use my ruler. Once I figure out, there's my ruler. It's a heat erasable pen so that it is, that is 9. Okay, so I mark my halfway point, and I will use my heat erasable pens because then I can use my iron later and get rid of my marking after I stitch it. Okay. So if you see, you can see that marking. So what we're going to do, this is when you will actually sew through all the layers to make sure the part that's folded back is back. And I'm going to stitch this down because we don't want to stitch it to the main body, because if we do that, then what will happen is that you won't have the pocket behind it. Now, I have taken that and done that where you can actually make it where you can hold 4 passports instead of 2. So you can do that instead and go and attach it all at one time instead of just around the sides. It just depends if you're doing for 2 or 4 passports. Okay, so we're going to trim our threads. So our card slots are prepped and ready. All right, so the next part, just to show you what the next part is, we're not going to make it run around. We are actually going to work on our zipper pocket. So we are going to get our lining, the main body lining. So I had it folded just so I didn't take up, I store everything in like Ziploc bags and everything, smaller space. So I have 2 pieces of lining, and I have marked one of them for the zipper pocket. So what we're going to do is we are going to pin that together. We are going to pin this together. And if you hear noise in the background, that's my teenager being crazy. So apologize for that in the ahead of time. So I will pin this all the way around, mainly just so it doesn't move while I'm stitching this down. Now, you don't have to pin it all the way around, but I just make sure that my centers match up so that I can do my zipper. All right. All right, so there we go. I have pinned it. If you see, I've just pinned it. So what we're going to do is the box we did, we're going to stitch around using that box to create our zipper pocket. And always remember when you're doing this to back stitch. Okay. We're just going to go follow the box around. And a lot of times I will sew faster, but when I'm trying to stick to a line, I will go a little slower versus when I'm sewing because I'm trying to stick to a straight line. So it's a zipper, so my zipper is very straight. All right, so now I'm actually going to pull out the pins because it has been attached. Now, if you see this, there, to help you, then you can measure a 1/2 inch from each end. Now, I kind of can do this without the measuring of this, but I'm just going to draw this off just so I can show you. And then you will cut at a center line to open the zipper box. So I'm going to finish drawing this off and I'll show you. This is not perfectly drawn because I'm not using a ruler, but like I said, I don't normally draw the box anymore, but this is just to kind of show you. So basically what you're going to do is you will cut this seam line open, and then instead of going all the way to the end, you will cut in at that 1/2 inch mark down to each corner, basically making a little triangle and then opening up. And I will cut it and I will show you what I mean. So I fold it in half to get it started. So, and then I can stick my scissors in there. And I said, if you feel more comfortable, draw your lines. I did because I'm showing y'all what I'm doing, and apparently I didn't cut through both layers. So make sure you get through both layers of your fabric. And make sure you are not cutting your seam that you just sewed. Okay. And we go a little bit at a time. And there we go. So now if you look at it, oh, I draw the box. I don't, Melody, I don't not draw the box. I don't draw the lines in the middle. I draw the box. You have to draw the box, but so that you can stitch around it. But I don't draw the line in the middle anymore. I just kind of wing it. But if you're more comfortable having the line, more power to you. So now that we have, just to show you. All right. So we have this. As you see, this is our main fabric. This is where we will have our zipper and our pockets. So what we're going to do, now that I've of course it wants to stick together now. We're going to push it through that hole. This makes our hole for the zipper. All right. So I'm going to take this over to my iron. No, a lot of people think that they need the line down the middle just to keep it straight. And my lines are not always perfectly straight, but if you see that piece that you're seeing, it's going to be encased between two pieces of fabric. Nobody's going to know if that line is perfectly cut straight. And that's the best way I can say it. So we are going to go take this and press it open, which is our opening for our zipper. All right, I got to go make my iron warm again. So I'm over here off to the side a little bit. I am still here. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. or at least not actively ignoring you. Well, while here, I'm going to go ahead and take my thing and erase my heat markings from underneath while I'm doing that, because these are the heat erase marking, my favorite, and then you don't see them afterwards. So right now I am pressing that hole open. Just a minute. But getting it pressed a little bit at a time. Sometimes you have to kind of finger press it a little bit, hold it in place for the iron to set it, which is always fun. And set your iron down on your finger. That's always fun too. But yeah, it's been apologize for not being on live the last couple of weeks. It's been a crazy couple of weeks with starting to get things ready for school and orders piling up and stuff like that. Right now, the last week, I've been working on a quilted backpack for my 9-year-old. And I know some people will be like, why would you put that much work into it? Because I can. That's basically long and short. All right. So we have a nice, pretty pocket or zipper pocket. All right. So what we're going to do, so this is the front and this is the back. So you can see the SF101 up here. So now we're going to take our zipper. Where did I put my little zipper? There it is. Now I've already previously added. Now I don't always put this on here, but just to show you what makes it really easy so that when you're sewing your zipper, it sticks on really well or stays in place and doesn't end up wavy. I've got 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape, which if you've been on my lives before, I love double-sided tape. I use the ones from Walk Walk. I use the ones from Wizardry Stitchery. I like it because it is very versatile, and both of those from there do not gum up my needle. Never had a problem. So until I find differently, I'll keep using it. So I've got 1/8 of an inch, and you see that really cute little squirrel zipper pull rainbow. Let's see if I can get it without the glare on it. With his nut. So we are going to stick it in our pocket. So what's the best way to do this to show you is you take off one sided of the double-sided tape, not both. Do one side. And I say that because then you can get it in place on one side and then you can lift up the bottom of the fabric and fix it in place. So let's see. We've got to move that zipper tape over. So I will show you. All right, so I'm going to move y'all over here so you can see kind of what I'm doing. So I am placing and I need to move it up so that it's evenly spaced there. And that's why I said just take one side of your thing first of double-sided tape off. Don't try to do both sides at the same time. You can do both sides at the same time, but I will tell you from experience, it's going to cause you more of a headache than a help until you get it where you want and everything. All right, so we are getting this stuck on this first part. Make sure that's nice and straight. That is nice and straight. Almost. There we go. Right there. But I will show y'all what I've been working on for my daughter, the quilted backpack, if y'all are interested after the end. I'm almost done. I gotta finish I'm doing foundation paper piecing for the straps, and that's the most time consuming of the whole thing. Once that's done, then I can put the straps on the back and then attach it and bind it, and I am done. Tell me I'm happy about that. Very. So we just pulled off the other side of the double-sided tape. I lifted it up, and right now I'm just sticking it in place. So just to show you, once I get this stuck down pretty good, this is what it looks like. And it's kind of held in place, and now we're going to sew it down around the box. We're basically the same box we just sewed around. We're going to do it again just to adhere our zipper. Let's make sure I have this right. Yep. Okay. So we are going to pull this up so it's nice and tight. All right, and we sew around with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to top stitch. But I will live and next week's live. The family travel organizer. And when I say this is an awesome pattern, I used it when we went on a cruise a few years back. And I actually made it to where instead of having a money spot or cash, I actually made a second slot for my passport so I could have all 4 of our passports in one of them. So it is possible to do that if you would so want to. And for next week, I can actually pull mine out and show you what I mean by that. But right now, mine is in my safe. So not exactly accessible. Went 1 stitch too far. Gotta love when you do that. Sorry, hit the phone. All right, there we go. Stitch back across. Move our zipper pull out of the way ahead of the time. Yeah, I like to move my zipper out of the way because if you try to sew it right up next to the zipper pull, you can. That's not the issue. But you get this weird, like, wavy zipper if you do that. So I always try to move earlier than I have to move it so that my zipper tape lays nice and flat. Okay, that was... Yeah, I hit that just right. So I think I just bent my needle, so woohoo. But at least I got the reverse stitch in before I did. You hit the zipper tape just right, and your machine does not like it. At least it's the needle. But we're going to pull out another needle real quick. Gotta love when you do that on the live, not been sewing all day long. It bends on a zipper tape of all the things. Not thick seams or anything like that, but zip. You hit it just right though, and it will. So we're just changing out needles real quick. See, never say I'm not authentic if I'm not troubleshooting right in front of you. So as you can see, needle or a backup needle present and easy to access. Come on. There we go. And have your handy dandy screwdriver. But I will, just to be on the safe side, I will actually go over that last seam one more time. Mainly because I don't like leaving where I don't get to reverse stitch as much as I want. That's just a personal preference. Okay, so we're going to go forward a little bit. And see, that time it did it no problem. So, gotta love when things want to be annoying. We will trim off the excess here. We're just trimming off our things, and apparently I had a skip stitch down here. So we are going to go back to that corner and fix that real quick. I don't like having a messed up zipper. So we're going to go to the other side. Sometimes you get that, like you have a bump in your thread or something like that. So I'm going to go sew over that corner real quick. One more time. Okay. Just so that we are not leaving our seam undone. There we go. Better safe than sorry. So there's never a problem with ever going over yourself just to make sure everything looks right. All right, so we trim away any excess zipper tape at this point. And if you know me, I trim it down to about 1/4 of an inch on each side. So we're just trimming it. And what we will do before we do much further is that I will take my little handy dandy lighter, because I don't like zipper tape to come unraveled. And we are going to burn the edges, really burn the edges of this zipper tape. Not something anybody's going to see. Flame it because this is polyester. So any polyester material will actually seal itself. If you can see how it seals itself at the edge, this one kind of gets a darker color. But you can actually, if you want to make sure that you sealed it, you can pull at it and it doesn't fray. That's my big way of judging that. So, because basically polyester is plastic. So you are melting plastic. So just to show you, it's all done for that part. So what we will do is go ahead and zip up our zipper right there. And then we are going to get our other zip pocket lining piece. Which is our other one, the one that did not have the box already drawn on it. And we are going to lay it right together with our pocket, and we're going to pin it all the way around. And then kind of leave it be at the moment. All right, so I'm going to pin this in place. Yeah, it's only because I'm live. Well, I bent one the other day doing some of the quilting, or not quilting, but the seams I was doing. And I hit a certain part of a seam where I had done some binding, and it decided to go, whoops, don't like that. So what we're going to do is we are just pinning this in place all the way around. You can clip it, pin it. I usually pin if it's woven. If it's vinyl, I'll clip. But of course, since this is the inside, it usually is completely woven or waterproof canvas. I will say, just heads up on this pattern, I do not put waterproof canvas as the inside of this because the seams get thick. And if you did waterproof canvas and vinyl, it would be almost near impossible to do. So we have our pocket. So if we were to unzip this, we will attach this, but I'm not going to at the moment because that is not in the pattern. And I'm going to do this how she does it for the moment. But if you look, there it. All right. So I'm going to set that to the side at the moment. Let's make sure we go to the next part. And yes, like I said, I have not made this recently enough to do this. To do. I almost did that wrong. All right, so see, this is why you read instructions. So I did the center mark, but what I'm going to do is actually, so this is actually, I like to have the center mark as well, but you actually stitch 1/4 inch on each side of the center mark. So having an extra set of stitching is not going to hurt it. That extra strengthening. All right, so we are going. So this is to make sure it's the right size for cards. Otherwise, they're going to slide around a lot. This is why you double check your pattern. You don't just kind of willy nilly. Oh, I think I remember how to do this. If you've not sewn a pattern in a while, make sure you double check. So we are going to go on our previous thing of stitching when we did our top stitches. A little bit more. There we go. And we're going to do our other 1/4 inch back down. This is also why you double check even a bunch of times, unless you've made it recently. Double check your instructions. All right, so just to show you, I'm going to grab a card. Let's just say I'll grab one of my business cards real quick, just to show you a normal size card, which is about a business card. It's about the same size as most like credit cards and things like that, just to show you how it fits. Still, if you see, fits with plenty of space. And I'm running over a cord. I was like, why am I not moving? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take this to that part we just set apart. We are going to set this on top here. So if you can see, we have plenty of space when we have our seam to sew that a pocket, this can fit in there. Just to show you, with the previous one that I've done, I'll show y'all, turn y'all this way for a second. Just to show you, ta-da, if it's nice and flush there. And of course, business cards are like most credit cards and things like that. So, all right, so we're going to take the pockets that we just did and we're going to lay them across the zip pocket we just did. And we're going to put all our layers together. Like I said, it gets pretty thick. And we're going to stitch this all together around the edges. Okay. All right, and we're going to pin this here. Pin through all my layers. It says even with woven, because you have the SF101, the layers, if you see, layers get to be pretty thick. And then you're adding an exterior layer when you're sewing. So it gets to be a little thicker. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to based all of this together with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. This is not our seam that we're sewing together completely to get it put together, but we still have to attach it to the outside. So I am going to take all the layers and baste them together. All right. Trim a thread that decided to stick its little head up. Happens, but we are going to do that. And if you're hearing noises in the background, my husband and my daughter are sounding very excitedly about something, and I have no idea. So, but I do like this pattern because it is very simple, but it is very functional. It's nice to be able to have, when you're traveling, everything in one location. And at the time, we had to have COVID cards, vaccination records, and everything when I made this. So we actually had our passports and vaccination cards, and they all fit. So luckily, we don't have to have those to travel now. Luckily, so glad about that. All right, so we have our getting to the end of that pocket, trying to make sure I've got everything, all the layers done. All right, so our first side is complete. So just to show you, and I'm probably gonna stop here for tonight, just because if I start getting into more, it will get a little more where I can't stop. So we have our first pocket. We have our money spot and our card slots all together. And we have our zipper pocket. And if you notice, we have an opening right here. So we will actually use that. We will open our zipper pocket and be able to put our Peltex in to make it nice and sturdy afterwards at the very end. So let's see. Let me think if we can get the passport sleeve. Don't remember if I do that next or the flap next. And if it's just the passport. All right, so the passport sleeves. We have our passport piece, and the first thing we do is we fold it in half, as we've already done. So I've already folded it in half to have our really cute little squirrels nice and present. And all right, so what we're going to do is I will actually use chalk here, or I'll use the marking pen, but I have to go make my, so if you could see the one I did previously, narrower divider between your passports because, well, passports are wider than your cards. But what we are going to do is that we are going to top stitch this first. Just like we top stitched our brains not wanting to work. Card slots, we're going to top stitch across here, but we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch and then 1/4 of an inch. So you're going to do 1/8 of an inch down from the top stitch. And that gives you this nice finished, just to show you, this is where passports go. This nice finished thing for the passports. All right, so we're going to go this way. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get these passport sleeves done real quick because mostly for this, we're not doing all the pockets and everything right now. What we are doing is just adding the passport sleeves. There's no zipper pocket or anything like that. So we basically just have to sew this down so that we will have 2 passport sleeves. All right. So we're going to do another line of top stitching. No, I would have made a quilted backpack for my teenager as well, but I made her backpack last year, and she said that she wanted because she saw my old LL Bean, she wanted an LL Bean backpack, and for me to make her one for college next year. So instead, because I usually only make them one every other year because I make them fancier backpacks than most. All right, so let's trim our threads. All right, so we have our nice pretty top stitch for that. So now I will go over to my table and we will do our marking, which is marking in the center, but instead of a half inch in between, we have a 1/4 inch in between, or 1/8 of an inch from the center line. So what I'll do is I'll go and mark my center line, and then I mark on either side of that. If I can pick up my ruler. My ruler's trying to be a pain. So actually what I do when I do this is something different than what she says. She says to mark on either side where you have a 1/4 inch in between them. What I do is I actually mark my center with something that is removable. And like I said, this is a heat marking. And I will actually sew 1/8 of an inch on each side of that center line. And that's just my personal preference. So I only have to mark once. So we take our other side that we have nice and pretty. Apparently I missed trimming a thread. And we're going to pin it in place. Kind of like what we just did on the other side. I'm going to pin it all the way around. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Of course, we don't have to stitch up as far because we don't have a pocket that we're stitching down to. Of course, I can't think of my thoughts when we're doing this. All right, so I've got it pinned in place. I've got my center marking done. So I'm going to go and baste this together and then do my stitching line in the center. So we are going to go ahead and get this basted. Now, one thing that she says is to baste it, then do your stitching line. I do it all at one time. Less times I have to take my needle up. It doesn't mean I don't make sure to adhere everything. Okay. All right, so we have our basting all the way around. So I went past where I needed to just so I can get to that 1/8 of an inch mark from the center line, and I will stitch it down. I'll stitch over, and then I stitch back down. And I just use that center mark as my guide. will go back up the other side. Okay, and we are about done with what we're going to get done for today. So this is not a hard pattern. It's just one that make sure you read all your directions, your measurements, all that stuff. Okay. All right. So we have finished our passport sleeves part. All right. So this is the inside of the travel organizer. So we have our nice, pretty money pocket card slots right here. We have our passport sleeves, and if you can see, if I can get my hand up, that's where it is stitched. If you wanted to, you could add a rivet right here to really hold it together. That's not something that she does. I'm saying you can. So just to make sure before I go on to the next part. So our next part would be to finish this is to put our piece of elastic, and I will do that next week because I actually forgot to cut the piece of elastic. That's the one thing I forgot. But we will put our piece of elastic next to the passport sleeves. This is where our flap will be. Like you will turn it, and this is where our flap will close over to. Having the passport sleeves back here, you can see the differences in the stitching. You don't see the stitching here because you have an open pocket here. So that's how we're finishing up for today because we'll finish the rest of it next week, which is putting the spring snap in, the flap, and everything else. So just to show y'all, as I showed at the beginning, I am working on some foundation paper piecing for straps. I got about that much to go, about a third left. So it's coming along. This is the backpack I'm working on. Of course, I've got my daughter's name sewn. This is the front of it. She's going all the quilting and everything are done. Her little science girls. She's excited for it. That's what I've been working on the last so off and on between other things. So here, if I were to zip it up, I can show you. I don't have the one I made as my template, or my template, my test drive, should I say. See, I've got the nice pretty binding, all matches and everything. Of course, that was making bias binding. It's part of the By Annie patterns, just to show you what it looks like from once it'll be done. So basically what's left is finishing the straps, attaching them to the back, and I'm done. So this is the backpack. So we see nice pretty rainbow zippers, these awesome little test tube zipper pulls that are from brain's not one to think. I know who it's So Majestic. That's where that's from. So that's what it's looking like. We've got the mesh pockets for like drinks and whatever. I'm actually going to pull my mesh down and I'm going to sew a little air tag pocket right here where my daughter's not going to even notice it, but I know it's there. And I'm just going to have it fold down with a snap. So not something somebody's going to notice, but I feel a little more secure with her. So just going to do that. And we have a nice big mesh pocket here. The back of the bag, which is mostly done. Like I've got my hang strap and my bottom straps, but you got to have this part of the strap. It has a like laptop sleeve in the back. I've got it pinned because it's bigger than it is. So it has very big things and all that. So that's just the big things I'm working on right now. But I did not show y'all. I did actually finish a place for everything that I'm going to enter in the state fair coming. So this is the one I just recently finished with the newest Tula Pink line with the really cool zipper pulls from my handmade space. And I used, instead of the mesh like they have on the inside that they normally have the pages, I used the new printed vinyl that Tula Pink put out this past time. So it's really kind of cool. But it's very heavy. So, but we'll see y'all next week. And we'll finish up the travel organizer then. Bye.